যেটা হয়েছে recently in the last or in the preceding 3-4 months, starting from July leading on to August, predominantly these 2 months, has been very, very sorry to see, has been very bad. It has not been good. Eta bhalo chilo na. Lives have been lost, blood has been spilled, a lot of sacrifices were made of different kinds, and honestly this was not something that we had foreseen, but it happened nonetheless. The point here being that the government made a clear flaw in their policy, in their policing policy. The government made a flaw in the handling of a situation. Things can always escalate. Eta ekta political dynamic. Eta ekta political universe cheta bole. In this universe there will always be agreements and disagreements. But how do you handle a disagreement or a criticism? It actually defines you. Our government, unfortunately, the former ruling party that was, they handled it in absolutely the worst way possible. And at least for that instance, people were being oppressed, people were being suppressed with their opinions. And that was the first and most terrible thing to happen. But it happened nonetheless. So basically, how much more and how longer would the Bangladeshi public, would the nation, the population, majority of whom were in disagreement with a particular scenario, with a particular issue, and in several issues with regards to the government stance and the government's direction, how would this population actually overcome it? Would it be sustainable? Would they sustain with it? Would they endure it? Or would they just actually find ways in which to voice their concerns and raise their concerns, which they have a right to? In the midst of this darkness that happened over July and August, এখানে আমরা একটা ray of light দেখতে পেরেছি, একটা hope দেখতে পেরেছি. The hope and the ray of light was in the students, their bravery, their strength, their boldness, their daringness. This was very, very, very good to see. This was an inspiration to all, including someone like me. I'm not even Gen Z. I don't want to declare my age, but I'm not Gen Z. These guys are Gen Z. They spoke out. Ora boleche. Ora onek koreche. In fact, প্রথমে কিন্তু জিনিসটা অনেক পিসফুল ছিল। ওরা কোনো ভায়োলেন্স, কোনো কিছুই ছিল না। যখন পুলিশিং পলিসিটা খুবই বেশি স্ট্রিক্ট হয়েছে, যখন পুলিশিংটা খুব অতিরিক্ত হয়েছিল, মানে it was an oppression literally to suppress opinions, ওই তখনও they found ways to stand up and still voice their opinions. They found ways to fight back obviously in the right way. You cannot, এখানে একটা জিনিস বিষয় নিয়ে বলা উচিত is that you cannot at all take violence as a means of getting your point across, at least not as the aggressor. And even in this case, when you're fighting against a government body or a representative, which is the police, a police is a representation of the government, but by and large the population of the country, you have to show your respect to them. You have to somehow find a way to tell them that nah, still we are still here. And that's exactly what these guys did. And it's remarkable, it's outstanding that they did it. জিনিসটা অনেক ভালোই ছিল। তাও they fought back as a means of retaliation. But they fought back by and large through words, through their demonstrations. Ar kichu na. Having stayed here for the time that I've stayed here and being a Bangladeshi, I take immense pride in the history of Bangladesh. Bangladesh's historyটা is খুবই ইউনিক একটা হিস্ট্রি। এটা আর কোনো দেশে দেখা যায় না। Fighting for your language, fighting for your independence, given that you had a governance and it was a two-nation theory at that time. It's a very unique story, a story in which Bangladesh had many popular figures and many father figure type people come in and take the lead and lead it towards a freer, a more democratic, at least per se, Bangladesh. One of those figures was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, someone who we have in recent years referred to as Bangabandhu, father of the nation. Many people have different ideas, many people have different ideologies, many people have different opinions on it. এটা থাকতে পারে বাংলাদেশ মানুষের মধ্যে, এটা কিন্তু হবে that there should be equal recognition of General Ziaur Rahman, there should be equal recognition of so many other people that took part in the war, the Mukti Jodhas. Aside from them, there are a lot of other people that were there, that were present, that were in fighting that battle against or for the independence of a independent or a Bangladesh state per se. Many people argue that all those people should be recognized equally. Having said that, I take exception very strongly to all the mishaps and the disrespect that was shown towards Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He is a figure who was there. He was there. He spoke. He was physically present. He was shot dead, which was unfortunate, but he was there. He was the voice that we needed at that time. Could it have been any better? Could it have been any different? God knows, but he was there. Should we disrespect him? Absolutely not. I disagree, strongly disagree to it. কেন আমরা ওকে স্ট্যাচুজ থাকুক বা না থাকুক, আমি এত বিশ্বাস করি না যে স্ট্যাচুজ থাকতে হবে, বাট আই বিলিভ দ্যাট ইভেন ইফ ইটস দ্যার, ওকে, টেক ইট ডাউন ইন আ রেসপেক্টফুল ম্যানার। আই ডোন্ট ওয়ান্ট টু সে, আমি এত ডিটেলসে বলতে চাচ্ছি না যে মানুষরা কী করছে স্ট্যাচুর উপরে, কীভাবে ডিসরেসপেক্ট করছে, এটা আমি মানি না। যাই হোক, হিয়ার উই আর 50 years later, আমরা একটা ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট স্টেট উইথ আওয়ার ওন আইডেন্টিটি, আমরা একটা স্টেট where we have happily lived for 53 years, but আমরা এমন একটা স্টেট ছিলাম over the last 10-15 years where it felt like we were being predominantly run or influenced strongly by a second state or a second nation. And if I have to be very, 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 very obvious about it, we were basically, it felt like we were under the influence of India. Now, I'm not saying that it is necessarily wrong to have a second state predominantly influence the way you are planning and the way you're looking at your 360, whether it be global politics, your economic, whatever it is. You can always have someone to help you. There's nothing wrong with it. But that person has to act like an elder brother and leave you be. মানে আপনাকে ছেড়ে দিতে হবে, আপনাকে হেল্প করবে, গাইড করবে অ্যাজ এ বিগ ব্রাদার, একটা আপন ভাইয়ের মতো, with genuine feelings, with genuine interest in you developing and growing. But আমরা যেটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি is that there was a lot of internal conflicts, there were a lot of problems, be it, again, there was economic turmoil, political turmoil, ideology wise there was turmoil. So এটা অনেক questionable একটা influence ছিল, and this questionable influence was building up in the minds of Bangladeshi people. And that, unfortunately, did not help the ruling party towards the end. The end happened the way it did. It was unfortunate and it's very sad to see. Nobody wants to see an end like that. But it happened, and that's strongly simply because of the negative influence of India in the various directions and the various strategic decisions that were taken, even in terms of security and national policing and so on and so forth. There were so many things that were questionable. There were so many things that just it wasn't looking right. দেখতে ভালো লাগতেছিল না, শুনতেও ভালো লাগতেছিল না। একটা ফিলিং থাকে মানুষের মধ্যে, একটা ফিলিং থাকে, হ্যাঁ না, দেশটা ভালো দিকে যাচ্ছে, সেটা আমরা পাচ্ছিলাম না, যাচ্ছিল। I have to give credit where it's due. Yes, অনেক কিছু হয়েছে, but still নেগেটিভিটিটা বেশি ছিল, and that was very unfortunate. আমরা যদি এখন দেখি, maybe we can take predominantly দুইটা এক্সাম্পল আমরা নিতে পারি। একটা হচ্ছে ক্রস বর্ডার কনফ্লিক্ট যেটা হচ্ছে, আর আরেকটা হচ্ছে রিসেন্ট যে ফ্লাডিং যেটা হয়েছে। both were very, very unfortunate. Now, cross border মধ্যে আমরা যেটা শুনতে পাচ্ছি, and this is from sources and news sources which is not from me. I'm not trying to patronize anyone and everyone here with my opinion. This is from absolutely strong sources. big clashes between border security forces. Lots of soldiers, lots of lives were lost. For what? Over a simple ego issue. Could this be solved? Apparently, we were supposed to be friends, even in spite of the recent issue that happened in July, the ousting of the government. India had mentioned that yes, we are absolutely 100% with Bangladesh in support. But yet, there was conflict, yet lives were lost. I don't need to say much about the flooding. A dam's gate was open in some part of the world. Water flew on, went into Bangladesh. Thousands and thousands of people had no homes to go through, no electricity, no internet, no means of communication, no food, no shelter. That doesn't really paint a good picture, does it? Needless to say, these issues can happen, will tend to happen, but these are very, very sad to see. The truth is that actually part of this is also because of a portrayal of Bangladesh being kind of a negative, having a negative notion or being a negative influence within the subcontinent patronage, if you can call it that. The Indian media had a big influence in it. Negative stories kept floating ever since the ousting of Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League government. Now, again, at the time of conflict, at a time of an emergency of your neighboring country, the best thing one can do is to remain humble, is to remain quiet, is to actually just give assistance and bring it and normalize situations as much as you can. But that didn't really happen. The truth is actually আমরা যে টু নেশন থিওরি যেটা অনেকটা বলা হয়েছিল এবং বলা হয়, আমরা মনে করছি যে এটা 71 সালের যে যুদ্ধতে এটা ডিসঅ্যাপিয়ার হয়েছে, এটা চলে গিয়েছে। But actually it was alive, and India's recent involvement or integration of their ideologies within the Bangladeshi way of running, or the Bangladesh's stance and Bangladesh's operation per se, it shows that actually the two nation theory is still alive. It's just that it একটা conscious unconscious kind of dimension এ চলে গিয়েছে, if we can actually call those two dimensions. We all know that এটাকে conscious unconscious কেন বলছি is because technically and officially we're still Bangladesh, but consciously we all know and we all knew that Bangladesh was pretty much on the tail of India, and we were following predominantly what India was telling us to do. India probably had their own agenda globally, but Bangladesh following them, I guess the ruling party at that time decided that yes, that is maybe the way to go, and that is maybe the way in which Bangladesh would thrive. Maybe it was that. But then that just shows that the two nation theory was alive and it was well. Actually, India একটা fear ছিল that Bangladesh খুব strong একটা state হয়ে যেত। This was pretty much evident in the way they were treating us, they were handling us. There were various incidents and issues that happened. They were actually even seeing it in the mass population as well. I mean, it's very obvious that now where we are sitting today, আমরা যেখানে আছি আর যেভাবে আন্দোলন সবকিছু হয়েছিল, সেখানে কিন্তু ইন্ডিয়া অনেকটা দেখতে পাচ্ছে যে বাংলাদেশিরা আসলে where they were tilted in terms of their support, in terms of their opinions, where they were tilted and towards whom they were tilted. In spite of everything, Bangladesh and Pakistan এর যে cooperation, এটা এখন খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট হয়ে যাচ্ছে। ইন্ডিয়ার ইনফ্লুয়েন্সে বাংলাদেশ ওয়াজ বিকামিং a tyrant state, এটা বলা যায়। ইন্ডিয়া অ্যাকচুয়ালি খুব কন্ট্রোলিং একটা নেচার এনেছিলেন। ইন্ডিয়া অনেক কিছু কন্ট্রোল করতে চাচ্ছে। ইট ওয়াজ কাইন্ড অফ অ্যান অপারেশন অফ opinions. Many different people were being held and kept back, and again in different ways, and suppressed in different ways. But now that we're kind of free from that, now we have to look at the cooperation between Bangladesh and Pakistan and the feasibility of it and the possibilities that it can bring for the future. Yes, both nations are Muslim. Yes, there's a history of 1971. But back in 1971, back then and even now, Bangladesh has always been clear that it wants to be a single independent state. We are happy to take help, and we would be happy to take help from whoever wants to help us. But the point here being that you have to help us genuinely. Do we see that Pakistan being one of those countries that can actually help guide us now in the future? Yes, but in the right way. And I stress on that point, in the right way.